Hey, welcome to the Tim and Gugabe podcast. This is your host, Tim. Gugabe, it's been a while. My fault. I've just been really busy with work. Still been like researching and stuff. Just haven't had time to kind of sit down and do one of these for a bit. But how have you been?
Yeah, I've been taking along pretty well. Similar on my end with work. Just for the benefits of stream viewers, a job is something you do to get money. I understand this concept is controversial in the MMA betting community, but it's something you have to do to feed yourself if you move out your parents' basements. So it worked in.
I am out of that basement. You're like sound and mouth are like off. Test again or try again. Talk again. Okay, are you look all right? It was just like it for a second. Maybe you're okay now. Yeah, all right. So are they fighting in Vancouver? It was in Canada.
Somewhere Canada. Vancouver.
All right, cool. I don't know, not the best card. I mean, to be fair though, the main card will have some violence. Like there will be some action. The co-main event's great. And we'll get into it, but yeah, like. Only 11 fights. Some of the fights aren't the best, but I don't know. Whatever. Let's get right into it. Let's get into Amanda Nunes and Aldana. Like I tweeted out, I think the line's fine. And Nunes is weird because I've always had that like she could gas and lose, but generally it hasn't happened. It's really just happened in that Pena fight. Other than that, she almost always covers her line. And it's just really tough for me to watch Aldana versus Holly Holm and Aldana versus Macy Chiasson and expect her to win this fight. I mean, sure, like, could she win like 1 out of 5 on like Nunes just kind of like swinging and brawling and maybe getting gassy or something? Sure, I think that's the case. But Nunes like has a clear grappling upside. She hits harder. And honestly, even if they struck for 25 minutes, like, Nunes, I probably favor. So everyone kind of seems to think Aldana can she has this path to victory. And I do think she could win a fight like that, especially if it got sloppy. But I would still favor Nunes in a pure kickboxing fight, personally, just based on power. And Aldana's very hittable. And if you look at Aldana's wins, they're not really good. Like if you kind of go through them, like the Ketlin fight was good, but it was like 4 minutes. Other than that, it's like. The Chiasson fight, I consider that a bad performance. Like, I don't even consider it a good one. And then it was like Yana Kunitskaya, Vanessa Melo, Beth Carrera in a fight that was sloppy and close. And then she got an armbar. Pudilova, Bernardo. It's like, I don't know. I'm not as high on her. She's a fine, bantamweight fighter, but Nunes has some clear advantages, in my opinion. And I'm surprised the line's gotten closer. But yeah, did you kind of have similar thoughts, or do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Nunes is annoying because from a macro point of view, she's kind of gassy, doesn't do much.
Yeah,
there's just always this sense of just the market kind of treats her like she's some fucking golden god of a fighter, and she's perfect, and she's the best women's fighter ever. It's like she's okay, but if she didn't have massive athletic advantages, she would not be as successful as she is. But it's like for Aldana, it's like, well. Nunes has 4 I win buttons as far as I'm concerned. She has the leg kicks, she has the insane power, she has the lay and play, pray, and she could just sub Aldana pretty quickly. So it's just between those 4 things, it's like Nunes can just decide to hammer one of those 4 things at any moment and make that the fight. Honestly, the leg kicks for me, I just feel like even if Aldana was getting her striking going, there's a decent chance the leg kicks just come in and Nunes just wins off them. So it's like, that could be it. I think Nunes sub is probably the best way to play her. I think it's plus 400 against KO being plus 150, which I always think is stupid for Nunes.
And Aldana seems stupid tough. I just feel like she would probably take a beating. Yeah. And I think if Nunes drops her or something, I feel like
50-50.
A club and sub type of thing could happen anyway.
Yeah. Nunes has hit 3 or 4 club and subs in the UFC. So it's just even if she's actually hurt her, it's women don't tend to get flatlined. which is when the club and sub completely disappears. Like Nunes has done it once against Holm by head kick, but I don't think that's going to happen here. So
Nunes
it's like
is a little more likely to flatline someone, but again, it's still a huge discrepancy in the sub and KO line, which is like probably too wide.
I think you can make the argument sub should be favored compared to KO. Like again, like I just think KO always gets overrated with sort of long running champions. Like John Jones is the same thing. John Jones is always KO is plus 200 and sub is like plus 700. And it's like, why? John Jones is not serving any standing KO for him. Like that makes no sense. And then he wins by fucking positional TKO, and I get mad. But like,
yeah, for sure.
That just feels like the dynamic here. And also, like, I'd rather be on Nunes sub because I'd rather be on Nunes to grapple at plus 400 than I would be on Nunes money line at minus 400. Because, like, if Nunes is doing the right thing, the sub prop will look good. If Nunes is doing a bad thing, I'd rather lose in the plus 400 than lose in the minus 400, just logically.
Yeah, like, again, Aldana, could I see her winning this fight? It's like, of course, because Pena did win like a gassy kickboxing fight where she jabbed her and like Nunes fought kind of not within herself, like I could see it happening, but like honestly, minus 300, I'd probably see her more like 8 out of 10. Like I could see her be more than minus 450 type of range, like personally, but who knows? Like shit happens, and again, it's like it's pretty funny that Nunes, the two, arguably two of the top 4 best women's fighters ever, like Valentina basically lost. She's doing head and arm throws her entire career and then spinning kicks. And finally she got her back taken and choked out. And then Nunes lost via gassing. And it just shows how bad women's MMA is, just like the two best girls fought in those methods, like I feel like the best fighters in the world should only lose by getting like clipped, just like something random. Like Khabib isn't going to lose in those type of ways, like if Khabib ever lost, he would just get clipped by a punch. I know. Anyway, okay, go into a really, that's still a fun fight. Like Nunes, I could see Aldana making it like a war at times. It could be fun, but Oliveira and Dariush, two guys you and I have always liked, I think Dariush is the rightful favorite. Like, I think he's a little better, he's a better wrestler for sure. I think you and I can agree with that. I also would argue, like, I know like Dariush has always had this like reputation of being gassy and not durable, but I don't like necessarily believe that. And I've always kind of talked about that. Like, do I think he could get KO'd? Of course. Like if he, especially when he brawls, I get a little nervous, but I think he's a tougher guy than like people give him credit for. And I also like, he's only lost like 1/3 round. Like he usually wins round 3. Like I never understood the cardio thing as much. Like we've seen him gas kind of one time, and other than that, his cardio has kind of been fine. But like I think he's more likely to hurt Charles here than vice versa. Like I talked about in the Islam, I bet Islam really big over Oliveira, and I literally talked about how I thought Islam was going to hurt him. If like just the way Oliveira charges, and he's been dropped in his last 3 fights, and Dariush is an underrated hitter. I think that's he can hurt people. I still think like Oliveira is always has like, I think we've talked about this before, always has like a plus 150 to 170 floor, just maybe except against someone like Khabib or Islam, who are a little more can control the fight. But he's just so dangerous. Of course, I could see him like hurting Dariush, but I do think this is kind of like a uniquely bad matchup for Oliveira, because him pulling a sub out, which is generally his main win condition in the UFC, Dariush is a better grappler. Dariush is going to be very hard to sub, and Dariush just has that like control ability where I could see him getting. I think he could wrestle to safety for stretches too. So yeah, like I favor Dariush here, but I'm always worried. Like he might brawl, like he brawled against Close, that could get him knocked out here and hurt. So I think the line's about right. I probably wouldn't play Dariush anymore just because the finish is always kind of scary with Oliveira. But I think he's a rightful favorite. It's just like he's defensively better. Like Oliveira can get taken down, and honestly, I think Dariush subbing Oliveira is more likely than the other way around. I talked about that in the Islam fight as well. I just think like it's because Dariush is better defensively as a submission grappler. And then I also think Dariush is more likely to hurt him than vice versa because Dariush is better defensively. But like, if Charles brings enough chaos and gets a finish, it wouldn't shock me. How do you feel? Did you think the line's about right, or do you like any props, or do you think Oliveira should be a favorite? What do you think here?
Yeah, I think last Cannon fight kind of situation, like Dariush small favorite makes some sense to me because he's more positionally coherent. Yeah. I also think Dariush's like recent win rate has kind of aged very badly, so it's kind of like that's a little bit of a concern I have, where it's just like maybe there's a sort of smoke and mirrors sort of thing here, where it's like he's been running very hot in wars, but you never know if he's been injured a fair bit. You never know if he's just.
I thought the CDF fight was pretty good. He had like a couple shaky moments, but that was a good fight. But I do agree, like Ferguson, whatever, like both their wins versus Ferguson is like, who cares? And Dariush versus Gamrot, even, I feel like that's not aging as well because it's like, it showed he's a good defensive wrestler, but other than that, it's like Gamrot can't really strike. So.
Gamrot's a weird fighter. I think he's just like high floor, low ceiling kind of a guy. Like it's like Clay Guida or some shit. Like again, like people had this take on Gamrot being this fucking excellent fighter, but it's just like you got to respect the pure pace. Like Gamrot's going on me to a certain degree, but also people had these fucking outlandish takes on him originally.
He's like a solid top 10 to 15 guy, and that's pretty much it. Like he's a good fighter.
But I mean, like Gamrot Dariush, I'd probably favour Gamrot slightly in a rerun. I just feel like he was a bit more minute effective.
I disagree with that.
But like round one, he took pretty much everybody's media scorecards. He was like minus 400 going into round two. Then Dariush wins round two firmly. Like, don't denying it, that was a great performance. Then round three, for the first like 90 seconds, Gamrot was out hustling him. Then that big knockdown happened and turned the fight. Again, I'm not saying Dariush lost the fight.
No.
I just think Gamrot is a little bit more reliable to outwork him if you keep rerunning that 500 times. Like, I'm not going, Gamrot got memes. I just think I prefer the work rate side to what Dariush was doing in that fight.
I hear what you're saying. I do think that fight was closer than people think. Like and I saw like Magic tweet about that, and I agreed with him. But I still would favor Dariush simply because I can't favor Gamrot against people who he can't take down and hold down. And it's like, he's not going to really hold Dariush down. And like, Gamrot's not a very good striker. Like he's been consistently getting out striking. Dariush is a good striker. Like he just is. Just the round three dynamic. I just felt Gamrot again. I think people forget that Gamrot probably did win round one, and like live lines on that fight before the knockdown, Gamrot was like minus 200. I don't remember live lines. I remember like thinking Dariush is winning. I mean, like, I don't know, like Dariush outlanded him 52-29 to distance, and Gamrot got 2 minutes of control on 19 takedown attempts. It just is like he can't
19 takedown attempts.
Like he can't get much control, and he's not a good strike lander. So I got to go with Dariush general. I do agree. There's versions of the fight where Dariush just doesn't hurt him, and the fight's a lot closer for sure. But Dariush is a better striker, and like it's generally going to be there. I'm not saying Dariush was plus. Like, talk about this one. Like, what do you kind of? I think people see our points here.
Like Ollie has a high floor due to dangerousness, has a very low floor due to being a quitter. Like Oliveira is a quitter. It's like, it's kind of weird because he had that period where he stopped quitting, and it's like the second he fought Makayev, it was like clear that he had no interest in being in there. Like, he quit. Like, this is how Oliveira is. But it's funny because he had a bunch of like durability performances which made no coherent sense. And it was like, has he finally turned his corner? Has he found himself? And it's like, all right, no, he hasn't. I don't mind Oliveira KO against sub. Obviously, it will be a fucking ridiculous club sub. Now I bet it will be like, Dariush will be 99.8% dead, and Oliveira will go for a heel hook or some shit, and I'll be like, for fuck's sake. Likewise, I don't mind Dariush submission. I just feel like just being a little bit contrarian on. Like, you can get Dariush submission 2/3 round 2, round 3 for like plus 1,200 some places.
Yeah.
Which if Oliveira slows down a little bit, you could just see Dariush just tapping him.
I think one thing here that another reason why and again, I'm not leaning Dariush and like saying he's a lock. I'm just leaning him, and I think the line's fair. One thing I do like about this fight is like this is another, and I played Islam. Islam was one of my bigger bets of the year against Charles. I was just like, Islam is such a better grappler, and he's so much better defensively as a striker. And people like weren't giving Islam enough credit as a striker, and I think people now are. But I think on that fight, what I liked is if Islam hurt him and like Charles started doing that like kind of fall to his back type of thing, Islam will take that. Like he'll actually follow him down, and he's better. Dariush will too. Like if Charles goes down, like Dariush, I'm very confident he's a better grappler, and I think he's a better submission grappler, and even just like their jiu-jitsu credentials, like Dariush is more accomplished easily.
I feel like the sport of jiu-jitsu has started to really diverge. Like
I do agree, but like other than just kind of the opportunistic random rear naked choke by Chiesa, it's like Dariush is world class on the mat, and he has been like in the UFC.
Yeah.
We're like, dude, like Charles gets his guard passed a lot. He's been subbed like 3 fucking times. Like Pettis subbed him, Lana subbed him, Islam subbed him. Like I think Dariush is more likely to sub him. You know what I mean? And like Felder beat the shit out of him with elbows.
Yeah,
kind of.
I think Dariush sub is a good price. Dariush sub is like plus 500. I think that's reasonable. Like, I don't think Dariush KO should necessarily be massively favored over sub. Just like I think there's a good chance he could get like an actual like normal sub because Oliveira will get very greedy off his back. Like his psychologically he doesn't play safe off bottom. He just has to go for random shit.
And like I think that's bad against Dariush because I think like going for subs on Dariush will get Charles passed. Like it's like a stifle and pass. Like that's
100%.
And that's exactly what I talked about in that Islam fight. Like it eventually was a thing where he hurt him and then passed his guard. But like I was saying, like him trying to sub Islam isn't a good idea. Like he's just opening up passing opportunities and like and
like not to pour scorn upon the Russians, but I feel like you got more chance of jacking a guard sub against a Russian guy than you do against like Dariush because like Dariush has competed in the absolute elite, jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. I still think Charles can like really threaten on the feet, and that is like Islam isn't gonna brawl in like if like I feel like Islam is a worse matchup for him, especially on the feet for Charles. Like I could see Dariush getting in a dick measuring contest on the feet, like and kind of brawling. Like he's fought more measured lately, but even like the Jakar close fight, and just like there's been times where he's kind of gotten a little over aggressive. And he could get hurt. But I think he's the rightful favorite here. I'm really excited just for the fight in general. I like both guys a lot. I think Dariush is like the one guy I think has a chance against Islam too, like in the division. And yeah, like I hope Dariush wins because I want him to get a title shot too. Like I think this like whole Poirier, Gaethje, Chandler, Connor thing, like they don't fight any of the actual good fighters. Like they avoid grapplers too, especially Poirier and Gaethje. Like Poirier is a shit grappler, and Gaethje is too. I mean, I thought Poirier did shit of it against Chandler too. Chandler just went for that dumb high grappling move and round like Chandler was like minus 200 in round 3, and then he just like went for that stupid fucking like somersault and then got his back taken. Like I thought Poirier looked like shit in that matchup. So I don't know, but I'm kind of ranting. Any other thoughts on this one?
Nah, not really. I think Arman Sukian probably beats Makayev. Like I think now he's like figured out his striking a little bit more, and his work rate just seems higher. Just I don't know. I think it could be good.
I think Sarukian has like the other best chance. I'd still favor Islam. Just seeing how Gamrot had wrestling success late on him too. You know, like.
But that was like 40 takedown. That was absurd.
Yeah, but also Islam is also a better grappler than Gamrot.
True, but I just don't think he's got Gamrot's cardio.
I am like open to the idea of Sarukian like having a shot against Islam. I still would pick Islam. I think you probably would too. I think Dariush is interesting because I don't think Islam's gonna just be able to go out there and out grapple Dariush at all. And on the feet, like I do think Dariush can compete, and he controls range well, uses kicks and whatnot. I could see it being competitive, but I want to see that fight. Because, like, Islam, I mean, let's be real. If he fought Gaethje or Poirier, they're getting subbed.
Yeah, instantly.
They have to KO one him or they're done.
Yeah.
Like, Dariush isn't like that. Like, I don't think Dariush is getting subbed by Islam. It could happen, but, like, I think it would be hard, you know?
I feel like Dariush Shimakaev just ends up being this like drunk bum swinging. It'd be very funny because just like the absolute pinnacle of fight is just two retards swinging on each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go to Mike Malott and Adam Fugitt. I still don't know what like Malott is. I mean, he wins a bunch of fights early, and I think Fugitt's kind of tough. Like I think Fugitt's a decent fighter. I have no opinions on like gun to my head. I don't really know or care who's gonna win, but I know Fugitt can fight hard. You know, like for rounds and whatnot. So like I kind of think he might have value just based on like the unknowns of Malott and extended fights, you know. But again, it's like hard to know. Maybe Malott, he could be a Rachmaninoff and just all of a sudden have great elite cardio, you know, and be fine. I think the unknowns makes this a dog or pass, and I don't really know how to line it just because I don't really know what Malott is at this point. But he looks like a moderately dangerous fighter early. Maybe he's good late, but I don't really know. What do you think?
Yeah, about the same. Like Fugitt, we know Fugitt's ceiling, but we also know Fugitt's floor a lot better, in my opinion. Like, yeah, Fugitt's athletically limited, but he's got a decent process. He fights hard. Like, good on him. He's a good, fun, like fringe UFC slugger.
He's like a guy who's gonna beat Contender Series hype people. You know, like that's what he's gonna be.
Yeah, like a Tim Mean. Oh, not Tim. Tim Mean's probably better than that. But you get what I mean. Just like a gritty sort of like just guy who works hard, can mix martials. The Kinoshita fight was kind of stupid. Like Kinoshita just stopped. That you know, he just off a cliff. Like again, like Japanese TNC guy. It's always live. They just end up falling off a cliff. But like the way he went from like fucking on Fugitt to just being done was like in like 15 seconds was bizarre. Yeah. Like, yeah, obviously, yeah, it's one of those things where you never know. If, you know, with TNC guys, you test their grappling for the first time. It turns out they just have nothing. Like, it's happened before. It will happen again, but that was shocking. Yeah, I think I don't mind a tiny. Again, this is going to be very contrarian and whatever, but I think goes the distance at plus 275. Like, it's welterweight. They're not. You know, it's like. Fugitt's a tough guy. I think Malott. I'm not sold Malott being some insane finisher. Like, yeah, you watch his fights. It's not like he's like massively process finishing these guys. It's not like he's super high work rate or anything like that. He just seems to be just kind of high rolling early bonks. So it's like, yeah, I think goes distance should be higher. Or should be sort of plus 275 just seems weird for welterweight. Like, yeah, if we knew Malott was some elite striker or elite grappler, maybe, but like I can't even do we even know he's like above average at either of those things. Main concern is like how Fugitt will push the pace, but like, yeah, if Fugitt versus Morales, he just kind of kept coming as hard as he can. He won minutes. Like, yeah, I wouldn't mind Fugitt decision at plus 700 and goes distance at plus 275. I just feel like, yeah, if you want to roll the dice on anything, you might as well take the two sort of biggest prices in a sort of weird meme fest.
I think with lack of data, which like Malott is a lack of data, I always like think the big plus numbers are value, just because like we don't really know what it should be, so err on the side of like potentially a big return, you know. But
yeah, pretty much.
It's really tough, but that may not be value at all, and we don't know, so I get it. But like, why lean towards like the room? Like, why lean towards the bet where like you don't have much room for error, you know? So. And that's like generally your philosophy, like a kind of like punt situations, you know?
You can also like how wide can this goes the distance be in hindsight? You know, it's like we've seen Malott enough. It's not like he's some insane predatory grappler who's hitting 20 takedowns, passing, you know, subbing people, that kind of stuff. Like, it takes a lot to say a fight should be ITD $1.25 outside of like at like welterweight. Like, I don't think Malott's looking like a massive hitter or like a massive sub hunter. Yeah. Like the Linesi fight showed more process than the previous one, but even then it was like Linesi just collapses when he's putting the thing. Like Fugitt, he will try hard. Yeah. And like, yeah, it would not shock me if Fugitt turns out.
Fugitt is also just better than Linus too. Yeah. Like, Linus isn't good at MMA. Ige and Landwehr, this is a really fun fight. It's tough because I feel like I don't want to, like, I wouldn't want to play Ige minus 250 in a striking fight where like Ige is stupid durable, but like you can't really rely on that in wars all the time. Like shit happens. Landwehr's dangerous, and Landwehr will come for you and keep up a pace. But I do get why Ige is a favorite because Landwehr kind of has to. He's not really good until he starts gassing you, and Ige does seem to be like have good cardio and whatnot. So like Landwehr's gonna come in, and Ige hits very hard, So like Ige has a durability edge, and I don't think Ige is just going to easily gas as well. So I get why he's a favorite, but like Landwehr's good at what he does, And this is going to just be wild variance. Like a lot of strikes are going to land. It's going to be a war. So I'm not interested in Ige minus 250. I don't think you should parlay him up at all. I picked him to win, but I kind of just see it as like a war. I also think like Ige is kind of like overrated as like a defensive grappler. Like he defends takedowns at 52%, and I picked him to beat Damon Jackson. Because he can scramble up decently, but he still can be taken advantage of there. I'm not saying Landwehr generally gets his grappling going when he tires people out, and he's more opportunistic sub guy. He's not really a control guy, but like there are ways for Landwehr to win this fight, So I'm like passing on Ige. Do you think like taking a shot on Landwehr is worth it? Like I'm probably going to pass on the fight. I kind of just expect chaos, but what do you think of the fight overall? And do you end inside it's almost like even for like fight goes the distance, doesn't go the distance. What do you lean there?
Under would definitely my side here. It should be a crazy war, but they're both quite tough. Yeah. I mean, my view here is like Ige probably hits him very, very, very hard in the first round, once or twice or 3 times or 4 times. If he kills Landwehr, everybody's like, Ige was minus 500 billion, If he does not get the KO1, I think suddenly the odds get like, again, I think if Landwehr after round 1 is like a must-life bet. Like there's a good chance he'll be plus 600 and he'll just be getting started. And like, if this goes 15 minutes, I feel like Landwehr outlands by like 1.5x just because how Landwehr fights. Like Ige's weird because he just kind of has a 50-50 fight with like a number 3 featherweight, but also the number 50 featherweight. Yeah. Like featherweight's kind of condenses the vision, but also the way Ige fights, he just has 50-50 fights, just how he is. He never really separates in volume. Like if he's not finishing you, he doesn't tend to really he doesn't consolidate top position that much. He doesn't really put like a huge volume out of strikes. So it's just like he just doesn't really give himself much of a ceiling if he's not knocking you out.
I sort of do like under 2.5 at even money. Just like looking at this, it's just like I guess the only argument against it is Ige's so tough. So like a finish against him is like, you know what I mean? So like maybe you just play Ige inside the distance instead. But what is that? Plus 125. I would rather take the minus 105 on both opportunities there because Landwehr is very tough, like very dangerous in my opinion. But I kind of like that. But I like him fight.
I don't like Ige's submission defense either. Like he's been hard to sub, but like a lot of people have had very, very deep subs on him, but Ige just fucking somehow miraculously gets out kind of situations. Like Bektic essentially had him in dead to rights. Like it's been a few times where Ige has been like almost subbed, and it's like Landwehr. I'm not saying Landwehr is the best grappler he's fought, but Landwehr will go for like 15 stupid anacondas, and like the way Ige defends subs, it would not shock me if it's like, if every time Landwehr goes for the anaconda, he has like a 5% chance of hitting it, but he's going to go for 20 of them.
Yeah, another reason why I just like the under, if you play the over here, how many like, oh shit moments do you think there's going to be? Like, I mean, there's going to be some wild, I don't know, like I put the over under like 2.5 on knockdowns. Like I just... Yep. Like, I don't know. I get Ige is tough though. That's the one thing like you have to take into consideration when betting this under. It's like he's very, very tough. But this is a much different fight. Like this isn't a technical. Like Landwehr's not going to give him like a technical fight on the outside. Like he's going to go after him, which either is going to get him knocked out or just cause chaos.
I feel like with Damon Jackson also, people were like that was a great performance, and like not saying Ige didn't have a great performance. Jackson just looked terrified. Like
terrified.
I think Landwehr is too dumb to be terrified. I just don't think he just doesn't have that gland inside the brain. Like it's just how he is. Yeah. And like I still think if Damon Jackson had actually fought to do Damon Jackson stuff, he could have. I think Ige struggled enough with sort of control grapplers and people just outworking him in the past. Like even Damon Jackson getting absolutely fucking hammered, he still outlanded them.
I saw that. I was looking at like metrics, kind of like researching, and like the numbers were like, didn't he outland him by like 4 strikes or something?
Yeah. And I watched and it was like, yeah, it was about accurate. Obviously, Damon Jackson's quality of strikes was a lot lower, but like it's pretty indicative of just like Ige doesn't put that much volume out. So it's just like even if unless he's getting more like I just think Ige is too knockdown reliant here or not KO reliant here to be minus 250. Like I think live Landwehr is definitely like optimal because you probably avoid the KO one, which is a good chance of Ige's win path, and there's a good chance you're going to get Landwehr at plus 600 after a round. But like it's kind of like Ige doesn't underachieve, but he just kind of 50-50s everybody. And he's against the guy who overachieves, he just does stuff that overachieves. So it's like, why would I be on minus 250 Ige?
Yeah. I agree. Like I think it's dog or pass. Like a gun to my head, I'd probably pick Ige to win. And then I kind of like the under, I just feel like it's going to be very chaotic, So yeah. All right, the other fight, Anders and Barriault.
Fun war.
Barriault just puts up more consistent volume in general, so I picked him to win. That's kind of why I picked to win. Anders, even though Dawkins is kind of like just like doesn't have much physicality, it can kind of just get like beat up. I feel like Dawkins is one of those guys. Once he starts getting beat up, he like almost like gives up too. He just kind of accepts the beating. I do think Anders showed a lot more urgency in that fight than usual. Like he was actually going after him and being aggressive. But Barriault's very tough and generally just lands more strikes. I do think Anders can like still compete just fine because Barriault is very hittable. Let's be real. So Anders can land something big. Barriault's tough though. Anders could just do like a clinch thing, maybe land a couple takedowns. So Anders has what it takes to like keep the fight competitive, but I picked Barriault on just volume upside. Like he consistently lands more strikes, so I picked him. But it seems like a pretty close back and forth war to me. And like anything that caught your eye, like prop wise and stuff.
The under's a little bit tempting, but they're both very tough. Just because I feel like there's a good chance they just have a stupid, crazy war.
Yeah.
They are middleweights. They both hit pretty hard. Like they're gonna land in each other's faces a lot, and plus money on that kind of dynamic is solid. But under's tempting. I think it should just generally
tempting at plus 130. I agree.
Yeah, like should just generally be a good fight. Like I think Anders probably wins round one with a slightly bigger clip, but also I think Mab probably has a slightly higher like dominant round upside just because I think he's more likely to get top position and outwork. And Anders is just hard to draw a beat on. Like he's had a bunch of inconsistent performances. Where like Mab, we know what we're getting. Like Mab only has one gear, which is forward.
Yeah, we know what he's going to do. Forward volume striking, which is good. Like Anders tries to out grapple guys like Christoph Jotko, who are very hard to grapple, and then he tries to strike with Khalil Roundtree, who has been embarrassed on the map before. So you don't know what Anders is going to do at all. And then he'll have a lot of like clinchy fights too, where they're just like up against the fence too,
because like look at these guys. It's funny because you look at these guys like common opponents, and it's like all people have all gone to the same split decision against.
Oh really?
Like Barriault fought Jotko, went to a split decision. Anders fought Jotko, also like a very tight, fucking stupid fight. They both fought Crandad, Total.
Oh, John.
Yeah, so they both fought Crandad, Total, but they both essentially had a split decision against them. It's just like they've essentially had identical fights against the people they fought. Yeah, sure, they've got more common opponents than that. I don't know. So they just kind of have similar stupid, grindy fights. Has Marquez Anders ever happened? It feels like it should have.
Who and Anders?
Marquez versus Anders. It just feels like a fight that has happened, but no, it does not.
No. Yeah, it's kind of a whatever fight to me. It could be fun. Like Barriault,
I think it'll be enjoyable.
Watch, like he brings a fight. I don't know. Is there on the rest of the card? Because I have to kind of go. Is there anything on just in general you really like on the prelims?
Curtis v. Imavov's going to be fucking funny because Curtis could win this at minus 300 because Imavov sucks. But Curtis will not do that until round 3. And then we'll 10-8 a tie at Imavov. But it's just like Curtis is an idiot.
It's weird because Imavov,
bad.
The thing is, I thought he was valued just because of grappling upside and cardio against Shabazian. And then I was like, that was easy money because I liked him in that fight. And then against Buckley, I was like, oh fuck, he's not very good. Like he kind of gassed, whatnot. Like he looked fine early, and then I was like, oh, he's not very good. And then against Strickland, you and I were like puzzled at how he was like minus 160 because even Strickland taking that on short notice, it's like Strickland would still have a cardio coming off the couch, you know. But then I kind of like Strickland rightfully won, and we both picked Strickland to win that fight. We're kind of confused with the line, but I still thought Imavov kind of like looked better than I thought he was. Like he got outlanded and lost clear, but he's like he didn't gas. Like it looked like all of a sudden his cardio just looked stupidly improved, and like he was fighting hard later in the fight. And like I don't know, Chris Curtis gets outlanded a lot, so like I think Imavov is a rightful favorite. But again, like Curtis just somehow has a knack for like staying tough and kind of just like being in your face and landing inside shots. But I don't know, like just Imavov is like longer, controls range a little better, so I favor him to win. But it's still like a stupid striking fight where, yeah, Imavov does seem pretty durable too, though. Like he seems like a tough guy.
I'll probably take a little bit of Curtis carry for or something like that because I feel like he'll just be an idiot. But like, it would not shock me if Curtis like gives away 2 rounds for no reason. Then round 3, Curtis decides he's going to put up 200 significant strikes and just melts Imavov.
Like,
and Imavov survives, and everyone's like, "For fuck's sake, Curtis, why would you do this?"
I still think Curtis might be getting overrated after that Gastelum performance because I personally don't think he looked that good. I thought Gastelum still like won fine, but like the later half of the fight, Curtis just kind of like went to war, and Gastelum was like, okay, I'll go to war with you. Like if you play like an outside game, like Jack Hermanson made Curtis look awful by just like evading. And I feel like Imavov is more, he's not like kick, because like it's like a lot of like oblique kicks and shit and like fleet of foot stuff with Hermanson. But I do think Imavov can be a little more evasive than Gastelum was. So, but I don't really care.
But it's like Buckley beat both Curtis and Imavov on the feet with ease, like complete stylings on. Like it's kind of silly because like remember Buckley Imavov was like everyone was like, oh, Imavov is gonna win this.
Imavov was beating him on the feet until late, right?
No, round 1 he was down strikes. It was kind of weird because like this crowd was going ballistic every time Imavov would do something, but like Buckley was outworking him.
Yeah, I'm looking. I do think I remember Imavov landing a little more effectively early though. So
I think that the crowd was going absolutely fucking bananas. It was like panties everywhere. But it's like, because Imavov won that off the grappling. Like that was like again, he definitely had a grappling edge. I'm not saying Buckley got robbed. Yeah. But there was that sort of sequence at round 1 where Buckley goes for a takedown, gets reversed, gets mounted. Where it's like if Buckley ends up on top of that, he probably wins the fight.
Yeah.
I think what else is decent on the card. Jasudovic Maverick's kind of weird. Like a certain part of me just is like Jasudovic might do something there because I think Maverick is a little bit overrated, but also she's like one issue, but also Maverick will probably give her that one issue. And
Maverick is a better striker, but she can kind of get out grappled. I thought against Roberts, like she has good physical. Like, I don't know. Jasmine has out wrestled really bad fighters though for the most part, so it's like Maverick would be a step up for her to out grapple, but I don't know. It's whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know. Shit, like I don't. It's whatever.
I'm on Aori. I was surprised the market likes Zahabi so much. Like, yeah, he could maybe grapple, but like I just think Zahabi is just not very good.
He's not very good. He is at least like technical, so he's like okay defensively, but he's not very good. I agree, and I'm just not a fan of TriStar like that. I think Faraz Zahabi is like a very overrated coach. Like I don't know. None of them put up volume and stuff. They're all like somewhat technical, but they don't macro like do things to win fights like consistently. OAM's a good fighter, and I'm glad he won. Like he's at TriStar, won PFL. Like he's a good fighter. But a lot of those guys are just like not volume based, you know, and I don't really like that. Like I think you need to be technical, like some of his fighters are, and like put up macro volume. It's just like in this day and age, you need volume to clearly win decisions, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And like, yeah, my main concern for Aori is just he doesn't grapple. His grappling's kind of mid, but like Zahabi's not really going to go in there and shoot 15 takedowns. He's never done it before, and B, it's not like, you know, I think Zahabi probably is a better grappler, but is he productively a better grappler? And
I don't really care about that. It's tough. But
that's probably I think
I've seen a lot of people on Aori, but I was kind of like whatever when I was like taping it.
That's
that Tercios fight was just weird. So it's like Zahabi might be getting overrated now because it's like Tercios was just punching air and not trying to close distance at all. Like it was bizarre.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that there's like probably like MMA betting can run on like power rankings logic, if you get what I mean. Sometimes, so I feel like sometimes a big sort of upset like that, where it's just a favorite looking like absolute dog shit, the market just like runs with it. It's like, oh, Zahabi is better than Tercios.
A good example was Chase Hooper. I was messaging you. I liked Hooper a lot going into that fight again. Who's that guy you just fought?
Yeah, I know no guy talking about. I can't remember his name was.
Fiore?
Yeah, Fiore.
I was like, why is he plus 105? And he was just like minus like 350 against Steve Garcia. I'm like, yeah, I get it happened, but like, why? What has Fiore done? It's like he beat decent guys like Colares, rest in peace, by the way. So
I died, didn't I? That.
Yeah, Felipe Colares. I think he passed away. I think he like yeah. I forget what happened, but sad thing to say. He was always a tough guy.
Hit by a bus, I think, from memory. Because maybe there was a bunch of stupid big nog jokes about it. But yeah, unfortunate for him.
Yeah, unfortunate for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I do know what you mean. Like Zahabi kind of like one is a big underdog, and like maybe he's getting a little too much respect now because it's like, dude, he is only a few fights removed from getting outlanded by Vince Morales 59-28 in a fight. Like landing 28 strikes in a 15-round or 15-minute kickboxing fight is very bad. And even in this fight against Tercios, he landed 54 strikes. It's like that's not enough. His ceiling's limited when you're like not doing anything, you know. So yeah, but
yeah, like here it feels like unless he grapples, maybe if he grapples urgently, he can get top time. And like, all right, that makes sense. But like, he's never done it before, and it's also like, like he was losing to Draco Rodriguez and just ass pulled a fucking crazy KO. It's like, well, don't lose to Draco Rodriguez. I think it's good. It's a good policy.
Yeah. I just like don't think he's very good. You know, pretty much. But like, I don't think Fiore is very good either. Like, I don't know, but whatever. I don't know. That's everything. We'll come back next week. We'll start doing these weekly again. I have like a much better schedule now. So yeah. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next week. Gugabe.
Yep. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good one, Tim.